Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Gasp podcast. How's everyone doing? So things are going to be a little bit different on this podcast moving forward. You guys probably noticed that I don't have anyone sitting with me, and there's a good reason for that. Not a bad reason, but let me explain to you why Zach is not with me. So I just want to get this out, and I just want to come clean with you guys, but Zach will no longer be appearing on the Gasp podcast, nor will he be appearing on this channel in the future. So, nothing bad happened, but it was just one of those situations where you sort of outgrow friends from your past, despite attempts at trying to reconnect with them and create something with them together. There's no resentment there at all. There wasn't really anything that set me off, but this is something I've been feeling for a while, and I've learned recently, especially, to stop ignoring my gut feelings before bad things happen. And I really wish him the best, and if you guys want, you can comment your supportive messages to him or in the comment section, because I'm sure he'll be watching this video. So yeah guys, if you have anything you want to say to him, just put it down in the comments and I'm sure he will see that. But again, there's nothing bad that happened. I just decided that I want to move forward as a solo act, and I hope you guys are okay with that. To be 100% transparent with you guys, I've decided to move on from the friendship as well, just because we are two completely different guys now. I've changed a lot since when we first met 5 years ago, and I'm not into the same things I was into back then. And there's some things that bother me, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm not trying to put him on blast either, but I want you guys to have a better understanding of why I have decided to move forward with just me on this podcast. I also would like to change the name of the podcast. Now, I was never really in love with the name, and you guys probably have some of your own thoughts on the Gasp podcast, but if you have any suggestions of a new name, feel free to let me know in the comments. I did try years ago to start a podcast called Waking Up with Richie, and I was thinking maybe of bringing that back to see how that goes, but yeah guys, just let me know. What do you think of like Waking Up with Richie, or just Waking Up? Something like that, something happy and uplifting that kind of represents me as a person. Let me know. It is midnight right now when I'm recording this on Friday night, so bear with me, you guys. I have been really struggling with my living situation and my neighbor, and just extremely loud disturbances at all hours of the day and night. And it just so happens that the most quiet time of today is midnight. So that's when I'm recording this. I hate getting videos out late to you guys, but let's go ahead and jump right into this, okay? Because I did find some really fascinating news to share with you guys. First, I want to start with the climax of my week. And the climax of my week was definitely sort of hopping back into the driver's seat of my life and seeing things more clearly and listening to that inner voice, that intuition that some of us tend to ignore, because it's easy to ignore it. Sometimes it's hard to pay attention to what that voice is telling you, and a lot of times there are hard decisions that need to be made, and if you just keep ignoring them, things will happen later on down the road, and I've already proven that to myself many times. So one thing I'm vowing to myself this year is to start listening to that inner voice more, because I know that it's there to protect me, and it's there for a reason. I'm no longer worried about surface level things like how people view me or what I should be doing, as opposed to what I am doing and like where I currently am in my life. I'm kind of competitive as a person, so I do tend to look at my peers and gauge like where I'm at and where they're at, and I can be pretty hard on myself, but Ever since I stopped drinking, it's been almost 3 weeks now. I stopped drinking, I stopped THC, and you guys, I see things so clearly. And I suggest if any of you have been struggling with like being confused or wondering why you might not have as much motivation as you once did in life, or anything along those lines, try to really challenge yourself and sacrifice some of those worldly crutches because you guys, it pays off so much. It's really uncomfortable at first because it's almost like, yeah, like you lift the veil when you stop clouding your body with all of these destructive chemicals and mind altering substances. And it sounds like common sense, but so many of us think that just having an occasional drink with dinner or having a doobie with your buddies is just normal, it's okay, and it is. But if you want to step into that next stage in your life and really understand like what's wrong with your life and what needs to be let go or changed or improved, I do suggest kind of sobering up on everything and starting to feel things as they really are. One of the things I realized is from the point I moved up here, I started drinking again regularly and going out and kind of partying again. And a lot of that had to do with me kind of drowning out my feelings of being uncomfortable living here, because as soon as I moved here, I felt uncomfortable and I knew it wasn't right for me. But now I know for sure it's not right for me, and I'm actually trying to create an escape plan because I need to get out of here ASAP, like ASAP, ASAP. So I would say that has definitely been my climax of the week, is just letting go of all of those destructive habits that have been holding me back in life. It hasn't been easy, and it hasn't been something I did this week. It's something that I've done. It's been 3 weeks now, like I said earlier. But I really have started to feel it and see things differently at the beginning of last week. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing, you guys. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to get this video out because let's just keep going. So I can almost see things in a psychic way. Like I can see things for what's below the surface. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, I typically, when something uncomfortable in life happens, up until this point, I would have went out for drinks with a friend or anything along those lines. And when you start doing that and training your body, and I'm not a medical professional by any means, but this is just based off of my experience. When you start doing those things in a normal manner, your body gets used to them and they become coping mechanisms, no matter what you say. Even if it's just a couple drinks a week, that does become a crutch and a coping mechanism. And once you stop doing that and you learn how to deal with these uncomfortable feelings and solve these problems in your life without relying on a substance, that's when I think true growth comes to a person. So that's what I'm doing. That's the stage I'm going through right now. And there's been ups and downs, but as of now, I'm looking at it as a climax. So let me tell you about a misfortune of my week. I'm not going to call it the prolapse anymore. I don't really like that. I'm going to call it the misfortune of the week. And the misfortune of the week was continuing to have issues with my next door neighbor. It hasn't even been 2 weeks since I reached out to my property manager the first time, and I have made 3 other complaints so far. Today I actually printed out no parking signs and stuck them to my outside window because when I got back home, there were cars parked in front of my home, and a couple weeks back, my neighbor threw a party and his guests were blocking my garage at like 3 a.m. So if you guys want to watch that video and see like what happened a couple weeks ago, I'll put it right here just so you guys can check that out and see like where I'm coming from. I'm not overreacting. This is an ongoing issue. It hasn't been solved. I feel trapped here. I feel Like, I'm living in a nightmare, and I've never been more unhappy living somewhere. It's kind of heartbreaking because when I first moved here, I felt so happy and so proud of myself for just getting approved for this place. But now I see why they probably approved me, because no one else wanted to live here. I mean, it sat vacant for over a year before I moved here, and the next door neighbor is just an awful person all around. And I'm just really hoping that God comes through and helps me out of this dire situation, because it's affected me on so many levels, you guys. And if any of you guys are struggling out there or looking for a home or looking for like your first apartment, try to look for something that fits your lifestyle. It might not be the most flashiest thing in the world, but look for the things that really matter. Like, can you afford it? Can you see yourself staying there for more than a year? Can you see yourself growing while living there? Is it safe? I mean, I was so jaded when I was looking for a place to live because I have a dog, and it's hard to find places, at least it was at that time, a year ago, hard to find places that were going to accept my large dog. So I kind of went with the first option that I got approved for. And I also had a red flag moment happen when I came to tour this place. I parked in front of the house, and the next door neighbor, the same one that's there, came out and gave me the dirtiest look ever. And I waved at him and smiled. And he stood there and just stared at me and shook his head and then walked back inside. For whatever reason, I ignored that and just stayed optimistic. And I ended up applying for the place and I got approved for it. Then they held it for a month because I wasn't ready to move yet with my other apartment. And it was just, hindsight is 2020. And now I see why they were so willing to work with me, because most places aren't. They're usually wanting you to move in within a week or two after getting approved. And they held this place for almost 2 months for me. So it's definitely been a learning experience. If you guys want to send good vibes my way, I'd really appreciate it, because I need to get out of here ASAP. My lease ends May 31st, but I'm definitely not staying here that long. I don't see myself staying here for another month, if I'm being honest. I am going to go talk to a lawyer next week, because I have reached out to my property manager multiple times. I have video evidence, other documentation. There's a paper trail, and nothing's been done. So basically, the property manager is violating the lease agreement and forcing me to live in an unpleasant state of mind constantly. I mean, I could go down the list of all the complaints, but you guys probably don't want to hear that. So that has definitely been my misfortune of the week. And also, a RC airplane benefit that was supposed to happen tomorrow, Saturday, February 10th, has been canceled. And I was really looking forward to that for the last 2 weeks, because I love RC airplanes. It's one of my most favorite hobbies. I've been flying RC planes since I was a little boy. So I was really looking forward to that. I was going to go with my mama, and because I'm a mama's boy, and she invited me. And it was all to benefit the Phoenix Humane Society. So it was kind of like just a feel-good kind of thing, a great way to spend a Saturday. But they canceled it for the first time in 10 years because of rainy weather. So thanks, Mother Nature. Thanks. I'm going through it, you guys, but I'm staying optimistic, okay? I'm staying optimistic. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the gay news of the week. Now, this one was kind of interesting because many of you know, or probably know, Cyndi Lauper. Cyndi Lauper has a 26-year-old son, and if you don't know, I'll be 26 in May of this year. So basically, Cyndi Lauper could be my mom. That's kind of cool. But Cyndi Lauper's 26-year-old son, Declan Lauper, was charged with criminal possession of a weapon and criminal possession of a controlled substance. What's up with all these rich kids, man? Declan was also previously arrested in 2022 after he was found sitting in the driver's seat of a stolen vehicle, which was illegally double parked in New York City. Now, listen to this. He was only charged with unauthorized use of a vehicle, and he was ordered to complete 5 days of community service and to stay out of legal trouble for a year. If that was anyone else, but it is New York, so I don't know. They're pretty soft on crime, so I don't know. He currently resides in the Upper West Side with his mother, which I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Because lately I've been contemplating moving in with my mother, but it's almost like an ego battle for me because that voice in my head is like, Richie, are you sure you want to do that? Like you're about to be 26 years old and you're going to move in with your mom after living alone for however many years. But on the same token, so many people my age are doing this currently because it is so expensive to live alone, and it's also a great way to save up and prepare to buy a home rather than keep renting and throwing your money away. Plus, my mom lives in the country and she has a doggy and she has a backyard, and I love her. And it would just be nice to save some money for a while and help her out around the house and have Lucky with Mason, his brother, and just be in a new location. She's really separated from all of the debauchery that goes on in Phoenix and Tempe and Scottsdale, and it's more of a small town vibe, like an old western small town. Maybe I'll give you guys a tour of her town someday if she's comfortable with that. But what would you guys think about me moving in with my mom? Is that embarrassing? Is that something I shouldn't do? I don't know. I've been thinking about it. So I'm not going to cast too much judgment on the fact that he lives with his mom in her swanky Upper West Side apartment. But, you know, gotta do what you gotta do. If my mom was Cyndi Lauper, I would probably be doing the same thing. Okay, now it's time for the movie suggestion of the week. Now, this movie, if you guys haven't heard of this movie, I mean, you must be living under a rock or something. This movie is called Call Me by Your Name. If you haven't seen Call Me by Your Name yet, you're truly missing out. Starring Timothée Chalamet and Armie Hammer, and perfectly directed by Luca Guadagnino. This movie takes place in 1983 Italy, and Elio, which is Timothy, spends the summer at his family home in the region of Lombardy, and then he meets Oliver, who is played by Armie, and Oliver is a very handsome student who is working as an intern for Elio's father. And he's staying at the home with them and just sort of doing his thing in Italy. The set design and creativity that went into creating this movie is so top tier and hard to find, especially in gay-themed movies. A lot of gay-themed movies tend to have a lower budget, and the budget on this movie was $3.5 million, which sounds like a lot, but when you think about all of the actors that are getting paid and the flights and everything, the set design, costume, everything that goes into creating a movie, that 3.5 million gets eaten up pretty quickly. But overall, this movie was just perfectly done. It's so beautiful, and I can appreciate the ending as well because it's realistic. It's not this fantasy that just would never happen in real life. I'm not going to spoil the movie for you guys that haven't seen it, but you definitely should go check it out. I watched it back in 2019, shortly after it came out, and I actually cried. It really doesn't take a lot for me to cry, though. I'm a very passionate and emotional person. I tend to wear my emotions on my face. So that's another reason I'm not the most confrontational person, and why, part of why I don't want to approach my neighbor, because what if he just seems like just a horrible person, and I just don't do confrontation very well. So I'm not a mean person. I'm not good at being mean or stern without being emotional. Does that make sense? But basically, the premise of the movie is that a romance blossoms between Elio and Oliver, and it leads to an unfortunate but very realistic ending. So go check out Call Me By Your Name if you guys are looking for a tearjerker and a feel-good and a heartwarming all in one. It's a great movie. But that just about wraps up episode 5 of this podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed the new kind of vibe to it. I know some of you probably do miss Zach, and sometimes I do as well, but in life we have to make important and hard decisions to get us into that next level, and when you realize something is holding you back, you got to make the change, man. You just got to do it, and you got to stop ignoring that intuition. That intuition is there for a reason. It's been with us for eons to protect us. So don't ignore it, you guys. Anyway, sorry this video was uploaded so late, and sorry I probably seem so tired. It's been a long day, but I appreciate all of you who spent the time to watch this. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.